You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
The following production is part of the We Be Geeks podcast collective.
Ian, look at this. What, it's a police box. What on earth's he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. I feel it. I feel it. Do you feel it? Faint vibration. It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
You're probably a bit confused right now. I broke the glass. It's all come back to me.
This. What is this?
That's my ship.
What?
Let me take it from the top. Hello, I'm the Doctor. I'm a traveller in space and time. And that thing buried down there is called a TARDIS. Time and relative dimension in space. You're gonna love this.
Hey there, listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Earth Station Who podcast. That's right, folks. We are back, and we're going back to the world of Big Finish, and we are looking at the Paternoster Gang Season 3. And this is a good one. It's a 3-part story that, well, it's actually all kind together. Each one's its individual story, but there's 3 stories we're going to be reviewing, and we get to see Jenny, Strax, and Madame Vastra. It's awesome, and we are looking forward to it. And speaking of looking forward to it, we got a great crew here tonight. Let's, of course, welcome Mary Ogle.
Hi, everybody. It is fantastic to be here.
You ready to go back to Elizabethan England?
I am so looking forward to this. I love the Paternoster Gang.
And Mr. Mike Gordon.
Howdy.
How are you, my friend?
I am peachy keen, and you know, I'm with Strax. I hate that moon.
Oh, understandable.
That moon's got to go.
That moon, well, it's a big egg anyway, so it's okay. So definitely would love to hear from you guys at home. How are you guys doing? You surviving okay? We're just curious. We want to know how you guys have been. We are going to, talk all about this, but please tell us, have you been following these stories in Big Finish? We definitely would love to hear from you guys. Please write us feedback at earthstationwho.com. Tell us what you guys think. Have you been enjoying these? Is there any other Big Finish you guys want us to review? Because we only have one more of the Paternoster Gang. Do you want us to talk about Jingo and Lightfoot? Do you want us to talk about some of the Torchwood audios? Do you guys want us to do some of the Sarah Jane stuff?
Will you send us a gift card so we can afford all these?
Well, if they support us through the Patreon, maybe we'll be able to get that. So we definitely would love to hear from you guys. And, please, we would love to hear what you guys have to say. So hopefully, we could find out, what's next on our list. Because we do have a couple more River songs ahead of us. And, do you want us to talk about the 8th Doctor stories? Do we want to... I know we're going to probably be doing the 9th Doctor stuff coming up.
Oh, I'd love to do the 9th Doctor stuff.
9th Doctor. And I think we've got slated the 10th 10 and River, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So I think we're going to make time for those. But yeah, I would certainly be keen to know if there's anyone out there that are good, because I think the ones featuring the Doctor get all the, obviously all the attention, but some of the ones with some of the companions, et cetera, I would imagine the Paternoster Gang, I don't know the exact download numbers, but I would think that they're much lower, and that's a shame because as we'll hear in our review, but I think we said in the first 2 volumes, this stuff is great.
They're awesome.
I think I'll go ahead and say it. I think this is my favorite series that Big Finish has done.
Really?
I agree. I agree. It's been high quality all the way through.
I agree with that. I was falling off a little bit with the last one we did, but I think this one picked it up quite a bit. So we'll
What a
get
difference
more
a good
into
theme
that.
song makes.
Oh God, yes, yes,
Let alone.
exactly. My ears were bleeding from River popping up. So yeah, it was interesting, and we're going to talk about it in a few minutes. But we do have a little bit of news to hop about, and so we have found out, of course, our friends over at Hulanta. We thought they were dead and buried, but they are coming back this year with a one-day virtual con.
Yay.
It's pretty awesome. So
Yeah,
Alan,
they came back last year, and they're one of the few things you can count on with one hand, like the good things about the pandemic, right? If it wasn't for the pandemic, we wouldn't be getting new Hulanta.
No, not at all. Because as far as Alan was concerned, it was dead and buried, and
exactly
he was moving on to other projects. But last year, because of the pandemic, he had some free time, and so he decided to run a virtual con, and it was so successful, he's decided to pick it up once again, which
awesome.
is pretty darn awesome. And Alan always put on a good show. It always felt like for us, it was the home Doctor Who show for us. And they always made us feel welcome. They always included us in panels, talking to guests. It was always a nice time. And we always had a table right by where the guests went in, so we waved at them as they walked by us and didn't pay attention to Earth Station Who. So it was perfect. It was really awesome.
Just like real life.
Exactly. So it was always great. And, always, Colin Baker stealing candy from our bowl and trying to look innocent about it. And, it was always a good time. So Hulanta is always great. And I think, if I'm correct, they have it scheduled for May 29th.
That sounds right.
And so it's just a one-day con. It's going to be online. We've thrown our hat in the ring that we'd like to come back and work with them. So hopefully Alan will pick us up on that offer, because I know he's getting a lot of people wanting to help out and do panels and such. So it'll be very interesting to see.
And if I'm not mistaken, most of the panels and such that they do, interviews and whatnot, chats with celebrities that they did last year, they did actual live streaming. So there wasn't a lot of pre-recorded content. So that was both had its advantage and disadvantage, where you had to, like a lot of these things, you had to catch. And if you weren't there when it happened, you missed it. So, but it was good because he did get a lot of named people. I know that I think I was able to catch the Rachel Talalay chat. She's always great to hear talk about her experience directing Doctor Who and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple. They also do a lot of fan panels, of course, which we would love to help out on.
Oh, exactly. We don't like talking about Doctor Who. Come on, when we're easy and we're cheap to work with, so it's okay. So it would always be a great time to do it, and it's always just a fun time being involved with the local Atlanta Doctor Who convention. The only other Doctor Who con that I hear that is actually also going up is right now, of course, Chicago TARDIS.
Yeah, Chicago TARDIS has announced that they are planning to have a live event. It will be Thanksgiving weekend again, November 26th to the 27th. 26th to the 28th. And right now they've only announced officially one guest, and that is Sadie Miller, who portrays Sarah Jane Smith in Big Finish. She has the distinction of being the daughter of the late Elizabeth Sladen. So they're keeping that part. No, nepotism, right?
She kind of had an in on the role there. Come on.
But, it's a nice tribute to Liz, I think. And I don't know Sadie's work, so I haven't heard any of her adventures. I'm kind of curious to hear if she sounds like her mom. But I think it's a great way to keep it in the family. Now, they did announce that, or they did state that they are going to make more guest announcements this week. So the last week of March, first week of April. So check out the Chicago TARDIS, their various social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatnot, to find out who else is going to come. But they are, I would say, outside of Gallifrey, one, which of course is like the big daddy of all Doctor Who conventions in the U.S. I think Chicago TARDIS is a close second. They've been around for a long time. and they get a great collection usually of past classic and present Doctor Who guests, as well as behind the scenes folks. They do a really good job at getting a lot of Doctor Who fans together. I had the pleasure of going a couple times. It's obviously been a long time since I've been, but I guess it started in 2000 is when it says here that the Midwest's largest Doctor Who convention started in 2000. So they've been going for
over 20 years.
Over 20 years. So
God, I'm old. I mean, yeah.
But it's a show that even, it's kind of one of those, and despite the fact that it happens on Thanksgiving weekend usually every year, they usually are pretty well attended. So a lot of people are like, you know what? We don't want turkey. We want Doctor Who.
Well, kind of ties together in some ways, especially the older series. So it's okay.
Yeah, some of those are real turkeys.
Oh, yeah, very much so. And, I know Kevin from the Flopcast is very huge on turkeys, but I know his wife is into Doctor Who, so it kind of ties in. So
I don't know that Felicity's ever been to Chicago TARDIS. I know that there's a few other folks on the ESO network that go. Nathan Logs has been going the last couple of years. Some other folks as well. So ESO network is going to be probably represented, but I only hope that one day we can go in person and take part in the show.
Exactly, and be part of a panel, or actually host a panel, or interview some people. That would be pretty darn awesome. And if the folks at Chicago TARDIS is listening, we are available. So it'll be very cool.
Unfortunately, no news on Concastaburas by our good friends over in Birmingham, right?
No, Huntsville.
Huntsville, right? Sorry, yeah. Huntsville, Alabama. We like that show a lot, and man, I feel really bad that they had to postpone and they didn't get a chance to do the last year or so, because they were scheduled to have, among other folks, Dan Starkey, who would have been the third member of the Paternoster gang that we haven't met and interviewed yet. So.
Oh, I know. We were supposed to interview Dan Starkey, but we were also supposed to, interview Donna Noble.
Yes. Yep. She was supposed
Catherine
to be there
Tate
as well. Catherine Tate was supposed to be there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it would have been really awesome. That was last year's show, and they had to cancel. And I know they're not going to even try this year.
Yeah. They've been having some difficulty anyway. I think the year prior to last year, they didn't have one because of scheduling mishaps.
Well,
so
that was also personal reasons why they canceled that one.
So let's hope that the South can rise again when it comes to Doctor Who conventions.
How dare you, sir?
This whole thing is over with.
So yeah, I think that would be actually great to go back to Con-K. Huntsville is a great community for the geeks, and the folks there, Matthew and the gang over there, are awesome. Bonnie does a great show in Huntsville, and definitely if Con-K ever comes back, we will be there and everything. So it's easy, and it's an easy drive from Atlanta. It's less than 3 hours, so it's not too terrible to get there, and it's very accessible to Nashville, Tennessee, and it's also Birmingham, like Mike had mentioned. And, of course, Chattanooga, Knoxville, not that far, folks. It really, really isn't. So definitely check out Concasterburris. Definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely. And if there's one more thing, Mike. If there's one other convention of note, of course, in the South regarding Doctor Who, and that's Dragon Con. We don't know yet about guests, but we do know, and if you listen to the Dragon Con report that we just recorded when it comes out this week, you'll find out that that Dragon Con is going to happen this year. Their goal is to have a live event of some kind. What that looks like exactly is to be determined, but they are going to do a hybrid show where it's part live action and part virtual, so that a lot of people can participate. And I would expect that, Brit Trax and the Doctor Who programming will be part of that. Exactly who they're going to get, how, all of that stuff is up in the air. But make a note that on Labor Day weekend, something Dragon Con related is going to happen. And if you can be there, if that works out, great. If not, don't worry, because you'll be able to enjoy parts of a lot of content from your safety of your own sequestered bunker.
Yep, exactly. So Dragon Con will be coming to you once again. So definitely check it out. So I will definitely, look forward to seeing people virtually or physically. I would just, it's my dream to be able to go back to cons and be able to hang out with my friends, talk about all these favorite topics we like to talk about. I think with Dragon Con last year, I did 17 panels. I think that was even more than normal because I couldn't be at two places at one time.
We did two panels regarding our Station Who for the BritTrax last year.
We did.
And I think we were on other BritTrax panels as well. So yeah, no matter what they have a call for, we will definitely try to help out. But yeah, like you said, Mike, look, a couple months ago, I would have thought that going to any shows in person this year was next to impossible, at least doing it in a safe manner. But I continue to have hope that this thing we're getting towards the end of this thing, the tail end. There is a light at the end of this tunnel, so hopefully we can all, do our business, do our job, get vaccinated, and turn the corner on this thing.
From your mouth to God's ears, my friend. It would be great. It would be really awesome. I know you and I, Mike, have gotten vaccinated, and not so sure about
just
Mary.
our first shots.
I've got the first one last Thursday.
Yay! So we're all on our way to getting fully vaccinated. So hopefully everybody at home is too. And of course, check with your local governments or local, municipalities and such to see about getting vaccinated, because it pretty much by May 1st, the president pretty much said he wants every adult in the country have the ability to get vaccinated.
Yep.
So fingers crossed, folks. Fingers crossed. With that being said, let's take a quick break, and we will be back with the Paternoster Gang 3.
Howdy, this is Cowboy Jim, and I'm here to talk to you about the Cigar Nerd podcast. Nothing I like more on the old dusty trail than sitting down and listening to two good old boys who smoke cigars and talk about nerd things like movies and TVs and comic books and all that stuff. So saddle up and ride on over to CigarNerdPodcast.com. They're also on the ESO network. Yeehaw!
So we're back with the Paternoster Gang 3, and it's going to be an interesting one because this one actually combines really well and almost leaves you in a little bit like what's going to happen next compared to some of the other stories, which in previous seasons it felt like they were each story in it was an individual and didn't really tie together. All three of these were very tightly wound together and even brought back some characters from older seasons, which is kind of neat to see. And it was great. It's like having friends come back, who you haven't seen in a while. And it is awesome. The chemistry just keeps on getting better and better between the three of them, too.
Oh, they're so amazing together. I love their interaction, and it really comes through on audio. It's almost better on audio in a way.
Right.
Well, I'm sure the actors love it because they don't have to get into the makeup.
I'm sure they do. I wouldn't blame them.
2 out of the 3 of them have to get up real early to get in the makeup chairs. So I'm sure they're both like, woo!
We are happy.
Yes. I mean, that's the one advantage, one of many advantages they have of not having a live action series. But this is, I don't want to say it's the next best thing to having a live action series, because obviously it would be great to have one. But I will say that if there ever is a Paternoster Gang live action series, I hope that the people who are responsible for writing it they'll be pulled from this Big Finish series, because they are just doing a fantastic job. This one, you're right, Mike. Even though the subtitle for all the seasons has been Heritage, and this is Heritage Volume 3. I don't think it's been really clear until this volume, like exactly what that through line is of Heritage is going to going to be, or is, I should say. We kind of had hints of it here and there with these sort of prehistoric kind of creatures being let loose and that kind of thing, but nothing to the extent of actually every single one of these episodes, I think, is important and has got clues as to what is the Heritage storyline.
Oh, very much so. And it's really interesting to see because literally in the first storyline, you finally get to get a little bit more of, basically Jenny's origins. And
they're not nice ones.
Oh, no.
You think your family's bad, boy. Jenny's, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you think, because you assume Jenny was just left home because she was homosexual. And, and back in the late 1800s, it was obviously not accepted.
Or
anywhere.
even just wanted to break away from her restrictions as a woman.
Yeah, well, exactly. But here
or just to break away from really nasty people.
Oh, and you
that's what the reality is.
Exactly. You actually find out how nasty her family really was. And it was just amazing. Her family was scum of the earth.
They are horrible.
Yeah.
They are really horrible. I think actually they lighten it up because if you really think about their family, her parents in particular, they're horrible people. They're just there's a real darkness to them. But I think they're kind of treated a little bit lighter than maybe, I don't want to say they should be, but in a lighter form in the story, because not only are they horrible people because they're abusing and profiting off of other people, individual, like unique creatures, we'll say, but they also are terrible parents. Look, I guess Jenny ran away, but they've got at least 2 other kids that they've abandoned. And they have no idea where they are.
And they don't care.
They don't seem to care. No.
And they were stupid enough not to realize when the person claiming to be their son coming back was like way older than the kid should have been.
They don't care.
No, they were just happy that the kid who came back actually brought another alien with them, as for a sideshow.
As long as you had somebody else to exploit, then they loved you.
Yeah, that's why they sought out Jenny. They weren't they didn't want a family reunion. They just wanted the China.
Oh, exactly.
Exactly.
And Strax's bracelet.
Exactly. And although I would have loved to have seen her pop up on Strax's homeworld.
I kept waiting for that to happen. It was at the end, is she gonna teleport to Santar?
Where did Mom disappear to? She just popped away.
She's in the land of the potato men.
And you get a lot of them actually in the third storyline.
Yeah, it would have been kind of cool if they could have tied that together somehow. That would have been how they came on to find them or something, is because she actually indicated them or set some signaling device off. But look, in each one of these, actually, we get, in the first episode, we get backstory to Jenny, find out her real name isn't really Flint, which was apparently a surprise to Catherine when she read the script. In the second story, we get some backstory to Madame Vastra and the Silurian race, and in the third one, we get some stuff going on with
Strax.
So yeah, we get all 3 of them have character moments, and yet none of them feel like they're completely overshadowing the others. They're very well balanced in terms of stories and the way that the characters interact.
Oh, it was great. In the second story, you know, how everyone kept on comparing Madame Vastra to Sherlock Holmes, and her, you know, her saying, I had enough of Conan Doyle, you know, plagiarizing my stories and my adventures and using them for his own. And, you know, and I had to send Strax there to threaten him. And it was just awesome.
It just so happens I just completed finishing up reading the entire library of Sherlock Holmes by Conan Doyle. So I am now familiar with all of the stories. I had read a few of them prior to this, but I had never just sat down and read all of them. There's like 60 total, and including 4 novellas. One of which is Hound of the Baskervilles, which is probably the most famous Holmes story, which is Whatever Remains, the second story in this, takes a lot of cues from. It is kind of a funny joke that, you know, Madame Vastra in particular is saying that, you know, that Doyle steals from her, and that all her adventures are ones that Doyle later makes over into Holmes stories, when in fact, absolutely true that if it wasn't for Conan Doyle in real life and Sherlock Holmes, that we would probably have no Paternoster gang.
It's all very meta, and meta done in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely,
in a fun way.
Exactly, you would expect that. That would be the case, you know, where you know, if you have two choices at this point, you could either, you know, sort of admit that Holmes was a real person, or you could, you know, go with Doyle being sort of looking at a real life figure and copying them, which he did a little bit of. So I like that, and especially since, you know, the storyline does involve a mythical creature attacking folks in a Moorish type environment, a dangerous type environment with some other stuff going on, and
giant sea chicken. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's the mare chicken.
Yeah. Instead of a a hellhound, it's a mere chicken, which I guess does really exist. There really is an actual myth of that somewhere in England. So that's a strange tale in of itself, I'm sure.
No, it was interesting. I actually really enjoyed all the stories, and all of them flowed really well. And there wasn't one where it was just like, is this one over yet? And there's been some big finishes, even some river songs. We've been that way.
I've been really critical of the river song ones.
Yeah, there's some river songs that dragged, but I kept when this was over, it's like, wait, it's done already?
Oh, I know.
Or how short were those?
Well, exactly. I was like going, wait. I want to find out what's going on with the Madame Vastra and that skull thing, and where's the missing, you know, member of the, what was it, Bloomsbury bunch?
Bloomsbury bunch.
Yeah. And so it was just interesting. There was just like, I want this. No, I don't want to stop. Keep going.
And those are the best kind of stories. I mean, they really did a wonderful job with this. And and the relationships, the characterization. I love that Jenny and Vastra were fighting partway through it.
Oh, that was awesome. That was truly awesome.
And they did it in a very real way. I mean, they felt like a couple fighting. I mean, they both had their secrets. There was a lot of miscommunication going on. And
the one part where, you know, you left me behind. How dare you? You know.
Yes.
Oh.
Or the part where Vastra wants to help the people find the people homes who Jenny's family have exploited, and Jenny says, "Well, can't we just pretend like none of this ever happened?"
Oh, ouch.
Yes. I mean, I like that part because it made Jenny a very real character. She has flaws also. And it's understandable from her character's point of view. She's been abused by these people and she just wants to forget them. She wants to pretend none of it ever happened and live in her new life in her fishbowl now. But, you know, Vastra's not willing to do that.
There's also a great scene in the second episode where at the end of it, Jenny says, look, I know I've accepted for outside of purposes that I am your servant and you are the lady, you know, as far as there's a class difference between us, but don't you ever believe that. like I think it's sometimes, you know, and not consciously, But I think Madame Vastra, obviously she sees herself as the leader of the group, but to the extent that, there's Jenny, like, no, you have to start treating me as an equal. Maybe, granted, to the outside world, I'm your servant, but, when the doors are shut, don't you ever think that that's the case here. And I think I think that was a fair criticism of her.
Yeah, and I think this is something that's bothered me about the River Song ones, because River is often written as somehow, pining after the Doctor or subservient to the Doctor, or, everything in her life revolves around the Doctor and she's not a complete person on her own. And I think that's a grave mistake when writing her. I think that's a character that does not need to have that kind of baggage.
And I think the writers here take a lot of liberties with these characters in this series more than the other two or three that that we listened to, because those were pretty much status quo. This one, they're willing to go to tell backstories. They're willing to, have a little bit of conflict, introduce a little bit of conflict between these characters, which I don't think I really noticed beforehand. It seems like the Big Finish is really taking ownership of these characters and saying, look, we're gonna put them through the ringer, and we might make subtle changes. This series we can have these characters grow because no one else is doing anything with them, so why not?
No, exactly.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled that they found good writers and gave them at least somewhat free reign to shape these stories, and it really shows. I mean, they are good, well-crafted stories, and they're good characters. I mean, Vastra's flawed too. I mean, Vastra's very, very quick to violence sometimes, and Jenny calls her on that. And it's like there's such a good balance as a couple, because they just don't let each other get away with that kind of crap.
Well, it was interesting because I felt like you saw Vastra lose her temper more in these three stories than you have in the past.
Yeah, she was under a tremendous amount of stress than she's been in the last. I mean, she's going through a lot with her own heritage. I mean, that's the main gist of this series, is her and that secret that she has with her past.
Oh yeah,
and it's going to come back to bite everybody.
But I mean, yeah, you can really see the overarching theme now of the series, where it's basically everybody overcoming their past, learning from their past and asserting their own identity, separating themselves from that all the things that shaped them from before, and they're doing it in a really well written way.
You saw that a lot with Strax, especially in the third story.
Yes, it was really nice to see him shine in that third story.
And I like the interaction between Strax and Stan. It was
yes,
it was good to hear. It's like, because with the first time the Bloomsbury bunch was introduced, we didn't really get a lot of scenes of them together, apart from them just bickering at each other. Where this one, they have to work together, and they recognize one another as compatriots, really, because they're both in the same situation. They're both outcast from Centauran
for different reasons.
Right.
For different reasons, sure. Yes. But yet, they both decided. That scene where that sequence where they're talking to one another, and they realize that they because at one point Stax is like, why don't we go back to the Centauran army? That's where we belong, right? And he, it's through talking to Stan that they realize, that they both kind of realize they don't want to go back. They've built lives, and they have families, and they have a crew here now that makes them, God forbid, happy.
I know. Dare I say it? Happy? I will never speak of it again. Which was just awesome. The characterization, and it was just awesome. And it was great because not only did you have, Vastra and Jenny, but you also had Strawn and Tom also.
Yes.
And they care for each other too. And, because basically Strawn was going to go away and just disappear and, just leave Strax and with the Centaurans. And, basically Tom was like, no, I'm staying here because of Jenny. And, basically we're going to, face the Sontarans, and whatever happens. And, basically it was just awesome to see.
Yeah, I have to say, when we first met the Bloomsbury Bunch in the earlier audio, I wasn't too sure about them as characters. It wasn't my favorite story when they were introduced, but it was really nice getting to know these characters here.
Mm-hmm. It was actually nice because I think it also cut down this time because you didn't have the three of them. You only had two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And, I thought it was almost too crowded having the third one. I already know, spoilers, we're going to see the other one in the fourth part.
Well, you figure they have to go hunt, find her. I mean, they made it pretty obvious that was
Yeah, that it's coming.
Something that was coming.
Exactly.
I think it was cool. It's a good move. The person who wrote the introduction of the Bloomsbury Bunch, Roy Gill, is the one who wrote this follow-up episode. Other than that, the other two writers, Lisa McMullen and Robert Valentine, haven't written any other Paternoster gangs prior to this. So I think they've done an amazing job. The producers of Big Finish have done an amazing job keeping the consistency here with having different writers, for the most part, attack these stories, because we haven't seen that in some of the other series that Big Finish has done.
No, agreed. And I have, ideas where I'd like to see this go, and characters I'd like to see them meet, that are from this era, because they're not time travelers. And, the Doctor taking them into space in A Good Man Goes to War was just a one-time thing. But they're Earth-based, and I could definitely get some ideas. I would really love to see them, run into Torchwood in this era. I think that would be kind of cool. And Captain Jack is actually with them in this era, too.
I think it's possible. I think, I'm surprised we haven't seen Big Finish really try to push other Doctors on them, or to push River Song on them, or some other, like a lot of other guest stars. Because, look, Big Finish has a lot of other guest stars they could use. I know that in the fourth series, we do get... Jago, right? Of Jago,
yes.
And like,
yes.
Name. So he will be, and that makes sense because he's in that time period. But look, any of the other Doctors could interact with them at some point, as could River, as could, you're right, Torchwood. So I don't. Yeah, there's still a lot of potential with this group and with this series. But I'm really thankful, on the other hand, that they've gotten a chance to just grow on their own organically.
Well, exactly.
Yes. I'm actually really glad they haven't introduced too many other characters like that. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing them in the future, but I'm glad that they had a good foundation of us getting to know them first.
I'd like to see them finish off the storyline with Vastra, what they're trying to do with her heritage, and then start introducing some of the more mainstream type characters.
Kind of hoping that I'm hoping that happens in the next volume. I don't want to see this storyline go too much longer, I don't think. But to Mary's point, I definitely think that, I think we've seen other, and I'm looking at you, River. We've seen other series where they kind of feel like sometimes they're just doing it to do it. Like they're just putting her with all these Doctors without having a really good organic excuse or story to tell. And you're right. I would hate to see the Paternoster gang be in that situation. Now, like I think we've said before, Strax does appear in a Jago and Lightfoot storyline when they were doing both of those, when they were able to do both of those, since both actors were still alive. So that's one that, so there's sort of been a crossover there, but like it's London. They're in the same time frame. It makes sense that they would run it. They kind of do the same thing where they solve mysteries. So especially ones that are, alien in nature or supernatural. So it just seems to make sense that they would run into one another at some point. But as far as the other ones, as if they don't, I don't want to force them to run into any other folks, but it would be kind of cool occasionally to see that. And if it helps the series, get more listeners, I'm all for that because, hey, I don't want to see this one go away.
I would love to see them pop up on the regular TV show sometime. I would love them to meet, Jodie's doctor. I think would be pretty awesome.
That would be really fun.
I think it would be great because the last time we saw them on TV was Dr. 12's regeneration story.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, they just went poof, because they popped during the Moffat era, during Matt Smith's, they kept on, popping up, which was great.
Wow.
And they were great stories. So
well, hopefully Chibnall made it a point, certainly in his first season as showrunner, to try to not use as many Doctor Who related things as he could. And I think he's come around to, obviously with Captain Jack being in there, as well as introducing a couple of monsters, alien races from the past, as well as Captain Jack himself. I think that, that Chibnall is more open to the idea of having other Doctor Who. But the thing is, if you get the Paternoster gang, you have to hire 3 actors instead of just one.
And the BBC is not having a lot of money right now.
Oh, definitely not. Most definitely.
So
not.
I think it's a little bit more of a challenge for them. Plus the time period they're in and whatnot, it does make it kind of difficult. But I'm all for that. Like live action Paternoster gang, I want to see it. I think we talking about an article a few months ago or whatever, a month ago, that Russell T Davies said that he would love to see a live action sort of Doctor Who universe open up, and sort of the way that Big Finish has done it audio wise. He thinks that the BBC should do that too. And I think we all agree that would be cool as long as the stories were good, obviously. And
yeah, they sort of kind of tried to do that with Class, but boy, did it not work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Class had no class, basically.
But the Paternoster gang is a very, very good, solid idea of a series that could be really well done in a short little bursts. You don't have to be a huge 13 episode series.
Or even make it a little easier. What about an animated version?
I'll take what I can get at this point, as long as the writing's good.
Mm-hmm. As long as it's good writing, as long as it's not Chibnall, I'll be very happy.
It always comes down to the writing, and it really shows in this series because, boy, the writing has been stellar.
Mm-hmm. This is I agree with you guys. This has been my favorite Big Finish non-Doctor Who material. So, of course, I would love to see the Doctor, but if it's just the 3 of them, I could listen to these guys in character read the phone book. I would love to hear Strax read the phone book.
Talk about something that doesn't get old. Like Strax doesn't get old to me. Every time he calls, and he does it several times an episode or several times in the story. Every time he refers to Jenny as boy, I chuckle. Because he just has no idea what the difference is between men and women and all that, and it's just so funny that. I think in the last episode where he's a waiter, and he's like, sir and or madam, when he's addressing someone, because he just can't tell the difference. He just doesn't know. And that's another thing that's been a theme of these particular stories that I think was there before, but in this one really felt like it was really relevant in the fact that each one of these stories is basically a condemnation of criticizing people or casting people out because they're different, but embracing them because of their differences. And as long as that difference doesn't create something toxic or is not violent in nature, then I think they represent this outcast group that is basically saying don't treat us like freaks.
No,
that's a good way to put it.
Finding the person,
right,
but behind the facade, and it's like that. I mean, really, the whole end of the first episode is about Vastra fighting for her personhood, saying she's not going to go down this road again. You're not going to tell me I am not worthy just simply because of what I look like or where I come from.
No.
I'm a person too.
Yeah, the idea that she had been through that once before was another revelation and heartbreaking, right? And this, even though we think like, okay, Victorian era, this is the time of like Sherlock Holmes and the Industrial Revolution and all that kind of stuff. This is also the time when there was an Elephant Man, right? Where poor John Merrick, right?
Yes.
They locked him away and ostracized him because he looked different. And the Victorian era England was not above that sort of thing.
No, and that's what you found with Jenny's parents.
Exactly.
They were the ones to fully basically exploit it, and it was interesting to see. So I really enjoyed the characters. I liked, her reaction to her parents, and it was just awesome. And like, what are you doing here? To the mother showing up at Paternoster Row, and it was just awesome. So I thought it was very well done, and I loved Strax. I was just going to comment about her having all our china in her muffler.
Oh man! Every time Dan Starkey opens his mouth, it's a treat.
Yeah, he is fantastic.
he's really great. And look, great work from I was going to say great work from rest of them. On the last episode, usually, or the last thing on the Big Finish series that's always included is a making of, behind the scenes interviews and whatnot. And I noticed that when they were talking to Catherine, that man, she sounds older than Jenny now. Like if she's just talking, just her regular voice. It's been 3 years, I think, since we met her right now. So that girl's growing.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Well,
she's got to tap into something now when she plays Jenny, because she doesn't sound that.
She's just not that age anymore.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, people do grow up. Look at us. We've been doing this for how many years?
Yeah, we may not be the right.
Yeah. I was going to say, don't look at us.
We're never growing up.
No. Where's the fun in that?
So yeah, it's pretty interesting, but I don't think we need to rate this. We all loved it. I thought we all
absolutely.
Had it.
Look, 5 stars, 5 whatever,
the
10
top rating. 10 TARDISes out of 5.
Whatever 10 moons, right?
10 moons each.
Whatever you want to get. If people are listening to this that haven't, if they've made it this far in our review and just heard us rave about it, if you have not listened to the Paternoster game, please do so. Like I said, it's the best one, I believe. And I'm not, just the story wise, the acting, the effects, even the music, like everything just is coming together with these in a way that I haven't felt as satisfied with the other Big Finishes. Yeah. And I'll even put it over the ones that have featured doctors in it. The only pet peeve that I have with them is that they cannot help it. They have to, they are so, they can't help themselves. They always have to make one voice that has some sort of effect on it that makes it difficult for me to understand.
Yeah.
Like in that second episode, I'm like, was it really necessary to take that actress's voice that played the older Celine lady and really make her mechanical? It took something away from me, and I think it takes something away from the actors performing it too. And I just
agree.
wish they wouldn't do that.
It was unnecessary. It just was unnecessary. There was no. Yeah. I'm sure she could have acted that perfectly well without any effect.
Well, she did. If you listen to the behind the scenes stuff, they're interviewing her, and they actually listen. You can hear her record her lines, just playing out with her voice, and she's actually much better, I think, without the whole effect that they add. And they can't help themselves. They're an audio medium. I think sometimes they feel like that's what they need to do. I don't think they need to as much as they do. And I will say, because that there's not as many aliens or they're not space adventures or robots in these adventures, there's less of that here in their stories. But still, every once in a while, I'm just kind of like, just let the actors do it, man. That's why you hire them.
Well, I was running into, in the first story, the blue alien with the 4 arms.
Yep.
I was having trouble understanding her.
Yeah.
Him, I had no problem understanding, but her, it was like, what? I had to go back. I actually had to rewind a couple times because there were periods where it was just like.
Yeah, they just put this weird, I don't know, reverb or something on her voice. I mean, just don't.
Yeah.
just
I mean,
say no.
I'm listening to it with headphones, and I still am having a difficult time.
Yeah.
Noise canceling, and I'm like, is that, it's so, and it's still, they can't help themselves. That's who they are. I get it. So I've learned to accept it.
Here's the thing. If you have to do that to distinguish a voice, then there's something wrong with the writing, because it should be, the context should be established in the writing, so you shouldn't be confused.
No, agreed. I agree with that completely, Mary.
I think that was true with in the last one, Inheritance 2, right? Wasn't there one storyline? There was a couple of aliens, and they sounded horrible, and it really was difficult to understand that whole storyline because you had to, and just because they were like, oh, they're aliens, so we must have to add an effect onto them. And
I think that was the Spring Hill Jack or something like that storyline.
No, that's not the one I'm thinking of. The one I was thinking of, I think, was the first episode where they were in their house and
dining with death.
Oh, yeah.
Nope, agreed. But keep these coming, folks. Keep these coming. I want to see these come in as long as they want, and I promise I will never mispronounce Katrin's name ever again. So.
Oh no, Mike has learned his lesson.
Oh, did I ever?
It haunts him to this day.
Yeah, and before he says her name, he always pauses that extra half second just to make sure. Look,
Don't say Catherine. Don't say Catherine. Don't.
She was so sweet about it, and she's like, yeah. I mean, maybe it's because we've met them and we feel like there's a personal connection that we, but that's okay too. I think that they can still back up these stories well enough that even if, I think we all know that despite I've met Alex Kingston a couple times and I know how I feel about her, but yet her adventures like sometimes just stink.
Yeah, and it's never Alex. I mean, she's always great in them, but the writing has not been great. It's been very up and down. There's some really good ones, but there's some really bad ones.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
That's a good way to put it. Well, definitely we'd love to hear from you guys at home. What are your thoughts on it? Have you guys listened to this yet? If you have, let us know what you guys think. Or have we piqued your interest to actually pick this up? It is a great one. But I do recommend you listen to the first 2 before going into this one. Because, you'll understand some of the characters more and such. So definitely check it out. I don't really think they have much of a special on one right now, but it was, but definitely check it out. It's definitely worth it. Speaking of worth it, we will be back again in 2 weeks. We will be back, and we are going to the 5th Doctor era. And guess what, folks? We're going to go right on a Concorde. We're looking at Time Flight.
We're breaking the sound barrier.
Damn straight. Woohoo! It'll be a lot of fun, and Tegan actually gets to be a flight attendant for once. It's pretty awesome. So it should be a lot of fun. Before we get out of here, let me thank my co-host for tonight. Of course, Mary Ogle, thank you as always.
Oh, it was awesome to be here. I loved talking about this one. It is. I think I'm with Mike. I think it's my favorite Big Finish so far. It was just awesome.
Mm-hmm. I agree completely. And, of course, anything you want to promote?
You can find my artwork at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Yay! And Mr. Mike Gordon, thank you as always.
And as always, it's my pleasure, especially when we spend time in Victoria, England with these 3.
Oh, most definitely. Wouldn't know if I really would feel safe going on an adventure with the 3 of them, but it was a lot of fun.
I mean, I don't know. It's probably better than going with the doctor, actually. At least you probably have more likelihood of surviving.
Okay. Good shot. But it was definitely a lot of fun, and thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it more than you could ever know. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors if they are into Doctor Who. Earth Station Who is here. Please, please, please. With that being said, on behalf of the 3 of us, please stay safe. Get inoculated, folks. Please get your vaccine. No one's going to be injecting microbes into you, and the doctor's going to have to come investigate. Trust us. He has no interest in that. He just wants you to get better, too. He wants us all to get better. So please, do it. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time here on Earth Station Who. Peace. And we're done.
Woohoo!
Yay!
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talent from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.